Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, This Story Ain't Over. So today I'm coming to you with another if you like this, then you'll like this video. So I've done this twice before and you guys seem to love it. So I thought I would do it again, but with some new recommendations. I picked up a lot of great books this year, so a lot of these are pretty recent reads that I've had. So I tried to connect them in ways where they had similar themes or they had similar vibes, or if you liked a certain type of thing in one book, you'd probably like it in the other book as well. But without further ado, let's just get right in. Alright, my first recommendation is for the K-pop lovers, and if you liked Somewhere Only We Know by Maureen Gu, then you'll probably love I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. So I read this earlier this year and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my absolute favorite. It's about a teen solo K-pop star who is in Hong Kong for an event and is feeling the pressures of her career, and she's about to debut in America and she's just not feeling K-pop anymore. She's not feeling the joy anymore, and so she escapes her hotel room and kind of goes on an adventure, and she ends up meeting this boy who happens to be a tabloid reporter, photographer, and he is like, oh my god, I'm gonna get the scoop on this K-pop star, but she doesn't know that he knows who she is. And there's a bit of a romance, there's a bit of betrayal, it's a lot of fun. It basically felt like a rom-com, but this has a strong element of K-pop, obviously, and I'll Be the One by Lila Lee is a recent favorite of mine, and I actually enjoyed this a lot more. So if you liked this, you might still like Somewhere Only We Know, but if you really liked Somewhere Only We Know, I feel like you'll definitely love I'll Be the One. I'll Be the One features a really fun and unapologetic main character. She is a fat bisexual Korean American teen, and she enters this competition to become a K-pop star. And there are two categories, the singing and dancing, and she enters in both, much to the chagrin of her mother, but along the way she kind of gets mixed up with another contestant who happens to be this really popular celebrity, and she's also just trying to prove that she can be amazing and awesome without conforming to societal standards. Alright, I do have another recommendation. If you liked I'll Be the One by Lila Lee, you'll probably also like There's Something About Sweetie by Sandhya Menon. Unlike my previous recommendation for Somewhere Only We Know, that one has a similarity with this only in the aspect of K-pop, but I feel like these two books are very similar in the characters' journeys and the main characters' motivations. Both of these main characters are fat, they are trying to be unapologetically themselves, and they both kind of embark on this journey to put themselves out there and go after the people that they like, and not let anyone get them down about how they look or what they weigh and all of that. And so in There's Something About Sweetie, our main character, Sweetie, is also kind of facing pressures from her mother to lose weight, and her mother really doesn't think that she can be who she wants to be if she is fat. And so Sweetie kind of embarks on the Sassy Sweetie project to be unapologetically herself. She also ends up getting mixed up with this other Indian American boy, and they end up in this situation where they are kind of arranged to date. Their parents were intending for them to date, but Sweetie's mother kind of shuts it down because she thinks that Sweetie, because she is fat, can't be loved in the same way. So Sweetie decides to kind of strike up something with that boy herself. And that boy is Ashish. If you have read When Dimple Met Rishi, he is a side character in there. Alright, the next set of recommendations also kind of one-to-one relate to each other. Like one relates to one and then that one relates to another one. So this is going to be a series of recommendations. So the first one that I want to start with is Anna K by Jenny Lee. If you liked this, then I highly recommend picking up Parachutes by Kelly Yang. I absolutely loved both these books, and they've actually kind of risen very high on my favorites list now, which is kind of surprising because I went into both of these with very kind of low expectations and they blew me away. So Anna K is a retelling of Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, and it follows our main character Anna K, who is a half Korean American girl, and she moves back to her hometown to kind of help her brother out with this situation. And this book is very kind of Gossip Girl. The main characters are all very wealthy, they have big parties, and they have a lot of, you know, interesting relationships. And this book actually involves a lot of adultery, you could say, because of the whole Anna Karenina situation. If you don't know, that book follows our main character who ends up in this affair with this younger man. And so that's kind of what happens here. But I honestly just love this so very much, and it was such an entertaining read as well. I love the way it's written. So this book does not have its writing style in common with Parachutes, but I feel like the vibe and the Gossip Girl-ness of this book is really apparent in Parachutes. So Parachutes follows two main characters, Danny Dela Cruz and Claire Wang. So Claire is a Chinese girl, she's living in China, and at the beginning of the book her parents are kind of deciding to send her to America to finish off high school. And so Claire ends up moving to America, to California, and she is hosted by Danny's family. So it's Danny and her mother. Danny is Filipino American American, and her mom and her kind of work for this cleaning business, and they're hosting Claire in the spare room. And so these two girls are in very different situations. Claire's very wealthy. You know, she is called a parachute. She's one of these wealthy Asian kids who's just dropped down like a parachute in America. And then Jannie has been kind of struggling with money all her life. She has like a part-time job. She is very focused on school. She just wants to move up in life. But these two get mixed up in some interesting romantic trouble, but also just a lot of things that are going on. With both these books, I feel like the main characters are given a lot of freedom and independence that they technically shouldn't be at the age that they are, but because of their wealth, especially with Claire in this book, because of their wealth, they're given this undue independence that leads to some tricky situations. All right, so Parachutes is also pretty similar to Rules for Being a Girl by Candace Bushnell and Katie Cotugno, simply because of a situation that occurs in both books, which involves a bit of a Me Too aspect. I will say that this book has some strong trigger warnings for rape, sexual assault, and that kind of thing, so be careful of that. Same with this, mostly just sexual assault. But both of these feature a situation with a teacher kind of taking things too far beyond the relationship that a student and teacher should have, and it's usually a older male teacher. And both of these kind of feature a very empowering message for girls and for dealing with sexual assault and having solidarity among women. And so in Rules for Being a Girl, our main character Marin is the 16-year-old girl. She's never really thought about feminism. She's let some really pernicious sexism kind of run rampant around her, including with her boyfriend and in her school, and she's never really given a care about this. But when she ends up in this situation where a teacher, her English teacher who she really looked up to, who is like this young, fun, the teacher that everyone really likes, he's an English teacher, his name's Mr. Beckett, but everyone calls him Bex. When he makes a move on her, she's kind of shocked and surprised and, you know, forced to kind of face the music, and she kind of turns to feminism from that moment, and she starts a feminist book club, and there's a little bit of a romance in this book as well. But I just really loved this book. It was also really enjoyable, and I think both of these books handled the Me Too element really well, and I just loved seeing that represented, so I highly recommend both of these. I'm sure you would enjoy both. Now I have another recommendation involving Parachutes by Kelly Yang. I think it also has some elements that are similar to Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. So I mentioned how this book has Me Too elements and, you know, deals with rape and sexual assault. This book also deals with those subjects, and I think that's where most of the similarities lie, but I do feel like there's something about the voice of Claire in this book that's very similar to our main character Enchanted in Grown. And so in Grown, our main character Enchanted is this young girl who wants to become a singer. She is, I think, 17. She's about to turn 18, and she's always had these dreams of becoming a singer, but she comes from this like large family who has been struggling with money. But in the opening chapters, she kind of goes to this audition and ends up running into this very famous, very, you know, charismatic R&B singer named Corey Fields. And Corey Fields kind of leaves this strong impression on her. But the thing is, Enchanted is 17 and Corey Fields is 28. And the book actually starts before that scene at the audition. It starts with Corey Fields dead and Enchanted covered in blood next to his body, and she can't seem to remember what happened. And so it's dealing with this case of what happened to Corey and how he died, but we're flashing back mostly to the months when Enchanted goes on tour with Corey and gets embroiled in this relationship where she has no control. I felt like the relationship that occurs in this book was very similar to the one that kind of happens in Parachutes that Claire goes through, and I don't want to spoil too much. This one definitely has a little bit of a difference in the fact that there's a huge age difference, and the fact that so many people enable Corey because he is a star, because he is a celebrity, and that is kind of represented, and I think it was so well done, so highly recommend. All right, the next set of recommendations that I have is with one book that I don't own, so I'm gonna put the picture up, but that is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I absolutely love this book. It is a queer kind of rom-com-y romance, and it is set in high school, and it follows our main character Liz Leidy, who's kind of this unapologetic main character who's trying to raise money to go to college, but when she loses out on a scholarship that she really wanted, she is trying to find a way to get that money, and she finds out that at her school, if you become prom queen, you get this huge prize money, and so she's determined to become a prom queen. But her small town school is a bit homophobic, and so there's no way for a prom queen to have another prom queen with them. It is very heterosexual, and Liz is gay, and she knows that she is, but she's never really come out to her school and to, you know, the wider public because she just doesn't feel like she needs to, and she also doesn't want to go through the trouble. But this book features this really sweet romance with this new girl that she meets at school, school, and also just Liz trying to start this campaign to become prom queen and the struggles that she kind of goes through. It's a really sweet kind of coming of age story, which I really loved, and I felt that it was quite similar to The Henna Wars by Adiba Jaigirdar. This book also features a main character who is a lesbian. So our main character Nishat, in the very first chapter of the book, comes out to her Bangladeshi parents, and they are kind of shocked, and you know, they don't really accept it, and she is coping with all of that, and she is starting a kind of senior business project where she has to come up with a business idea and kind of execute it and all of that. And so she wants to do a henna business because she's always grown up doing henna and she's pretty good at it, and you know, her grandmother's really good at it. But when another group at her school, who also has this really cute girl named Flavia, when they kind of take the idea of henna and kind of culturally appropriate it for their project, none of them are Bangladeshi, none of them are South Asian in any way, but they're just kind of using this because they think they can win with it. When they do that, she's kind of in this competition with them, but she also has a crush on the girl in that group, and she's kind of dealing with that. And so I feel like both books featured kind of this situation where they're both in this sort of popularity contest at their school. They're trying to, you know, achieve something, but it involves how popular they are and how much people like them. But they're also both lesbians, and you know, they're dealing with that and the crushes that they have on the girls, and I just loved it. Both of them were super cute, and both the main characters were just trying their hardest to be themselves, which I loved so much. All right, the next recommendation that I have is if you like The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, then you'll probably also like Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. So these books are pretty different, but I feel like tonally they're quite similar. They both feature main characters who are a bit unreliable, and they are both kind of dealing with situations from their past that have been very traumatic and have informed the people that they become. And they both also feature a strong element of a mystery or like thriller aspect, which I really thoroughly enjoyed in both. And so in this one, it follows our main character Alex Kraft, who is reeling from the very brutal death of her sister, who was also sexually assaulted. And so she's kind of returning to school in the small town, and she knows that her sister's killer is just kind of walking free. But there's also two other main characters in this book, which kind of sets this apart from Allegedly, because that one's just one main character, one narrator. But the two other characters, one was kind of involved with Alex's sister's death, and then the other one is the preacher's kid at the school who has these kind of expectations put on her, and she is trying to break them. Allegedly is kind of similar in the sense that the main character is a lot like Alex Kraft. I felt like I got similar vibes. But this book follows our main character Mary B. Addison, who is this young girl who at age 7 allegedly killed a baby. And so she went through 6 years of baby jail and is now in a group home, and you know, is facing the consequences of allegedly killing this baby. But when she finds out that she is now pregnant and she wants to take care of this baby, but she knows that they're probably going to take away her baby, and so she's trying to kind of get out of the group home, you know, find a future for herself, you know, write the SATs, but she's also trying to find a way to exonerate herself so that she can keep this baby with, you know, a good conscience. I feel like although both these books are quite different in content and like what actually happens, I feel like the tone of these books was just so similar. I felt the same kind of vibes and the same kind of anxiety while reading them, because they do feel kind of like thrillers, and you know, you're trying to find out what happened and you're flipping the pages faster and faster because you just need to know. And I felt that very strongly for both. So I think that's where they're kind of similar. So I wouldn't go into them, you know, thinking they're going to be similar in content, but similar in tone. All right, another recommendation that I have is kind of like a 3-parter. These all kind of work together, but they're slightly different in each way. So if you liked Don't Read the Comments by Eric Smith, then you might like Slay by Brittany Morris. So these are quite different, but they are both connected in the aspect of having games in them and main characters who are creators or play games a lot. So the two main characters in this book both play games a lot. They're very passionate about it, but the main female character in this, Divya, is a kind of gaming streamer, and she's like very popular for that, but she's being faced with a ton of trolls because, you know, they're all racist and sexist and all that. And she's also dealing with some stuff going on at home, and so that's a strong aspect of this book. But I think the game aspect was just so strong in this book. You're seeing the characters play in the game, you are seeing them deal with the game space, which is just really cool. And Slay is a lot like that too. The main character is a black gamer. She has created this kind of black only game for herself and for her community, for black people to feel safe in the gaming space, and it's just this really interesting and very cool game. And you know, hearing the descriptions of it was just like really interesting. But she is also faced with some trolls and some very horrible people when a situation occurs with the game and one of the players ending up dead. And so she's had to deal with that and also the personal things going on in her life offline. But Slay has a bit of a thriller aspect to it. I do feel like there is a bit of a mystery to this that isn't in Don't Read the Comments, so I would be wary of that when you're going into them. I feel like they're similar if you like seeing games in books and seeing that represented. I would say though, Slay is a lot more like Warcross by Marie Lu in some ways. Warcross features a lot of like traveling and a lot of wealth in it, whereas Slay feels a lot more like just a regular high school story with this game aspect on top. But I do feel like both of these feature a very strong mystery element and kind of this page turning tone to them where you just want to know what's gonna happen at the end. But for those of you who haven't been around the 100 billion times that I've raved about Warcross, this follows our main character, Amika Chen, who is a, young girl living in New York. She is making money for herself, and she's a really good gamer on this virtual reality game called Warcross, and it was created by this boy named Hideo Tanaka. He was very young when he created it, and he's only like, I think 20 or something. And when our main character, Amika Chen, kind of glitches herself into a championship game of Warcross, the creator of the game, Hideo, kind of takes notice of her, and so he flies her to Tokyo to take care of a hacker that has kind of gotten into the game. And so both of these kind of feature a element of mystery because the main troll in Slay, you're trying to figure out who they are as well. And both of these feature a really interesting twist that I don't think you can see coming, which I loved as well. But those are all of the books that I wanted to recommend today. I had a lot of fun. A lot of these were ones that I haven't mentioned before, and I really liked kind of connecting them in ways that I wouldn't really think of them usually. But yeah, a lot of these, like some of them were similar in content, some of them were more similar in tone, and a lot of them related in sequence to each other. Like there wasn't just a one-to-one comparison. So I had a lot of fun filming this, and I hope you guys enjoyed and that your TBRs have been absolutely wrecked by me, because that's just my favorite feeling. And I love when you guys comment and tell me that you have so many more books to read. That's just my main game, so love that. Let me know down below if there are any books that you guys know that were similar to some of the ones that I mentioned in this book, or if there's like one set of recommendations that you think are very similar. So if there's like one book that you know I enjoyed, you've seen me talk about it in another video, let me know a book that's similar to it. I would love to hear all the recommendations from you guys. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Be sure to go follow me on Instagram at thisstoryaintover and on Twitter, thisstoryaintover. I post a lot of bookish content on those two platforms as well, so you don't want to miss out on that. And I also update my Goodreads really frequently, so if you ever want to know what I'm reading on a like day-to-day basis, then definitely go check that out. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video, and please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!